Good morning. How are your plans for the New Year holidays?
I'm starting to clean today. I want to relax during the new year. My son Owen's wife, Caroline, came to visit my house in a very cute outfit. Since Owen and his wife live right next door on the same property, we usually ring the doorbell to communicate when we need something. Caroline looked me up and down in my cleaning outfit, squinting her eyes, and then clapped her hands happily and smiled.
I see. I've been thinking that I haven't been a good daughter to my parents. So, I'm taking them on a trip starting tomorrow.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
I feel bad for Owen, who has to work during the New Year holidays. But I came here because I have a favor to ask of you.
Oh, what is it? I tilted my head.
Cleaning. I'm planning to invite my parents over for New Year's, so please make sure to clean thoroughly.
Caroline said this with a smile and handed me a $5 bill. When I looked at her with a puzzled expression, she gave me a big smile and tilted her head slightly.
It's tough to work for free, after all.
Before I could say anything, she closed the door and left. The $5 bill in my hand felt strangely light. I felt something inside me snap, and I muttered, I need to get things in order before the new year. A few days later, during the New Year holidays, there was an unusually heavy snowfall. My name is Bella. I'm 55 years old, but I'm often told I look younger than my age. I used to be a hairdresser when I was single, so I tend to choose lighter hair colors. I worked as a hairdresser for quite a long time, but I quit when I got married. Since then, I've been a full-time housewife, but last summer, I lost my husband Jonathan, who was 5 years older than me, to illness. After Jonathan passed away, I decided to work as a visiting hairdresser at nursing homes twice a week, partly for financial reasons. Although I was depressed for a few months, the encouragement from Owen and Caroline, who live with me, helped me recover quickly. Moreover, the work as a visiting hairdresser was very rewarding and enjoyable. The residents at the nursing home advised me that staying busy would help me overcome my sadness, and they were absolutely right. The house I live in was originally the home I shared with Jonathan and my parents. Both my parents and my husband have passed away, and now I live next door to my son Owen and his wife Caroline, who are concerned about my well-being in my old age. The house we built when I married my late husband has 2 large houses on the same property, but we cannot move between the houses from inside. The layout of each house is almost identical, with the same window positions and shapes, and I've heard neighbors refer to them as symmetrical houses. The garden visible from the north window of the living room is wide and can be seen well from both my house and Owen's house. There is a flower bed in the garden. Jonathan always planted various flowers in the flower bed, but after his illness was diagnosed, he planted sunflowers every year for some reason. One day, Jonathan put the seeds from the finished sunflowers into a bag and handed it to me.
When I'm gone, plant these every year, okay?
At that time, I replied, Don't say such ominous things. In the hot sunlight, the image of sunflowers facing the windows of our houses, both day and night, flashed through my mind. The yellow flowers looked warm, as if they were watching over us. I suggested placing a camping chair in the garden and having Jonathan sit there for a haircut. As he sat in the chair, closing his eyes comfortably, I gently stroked his hair. I draped a haircut cape over his shoulders, which had become thin due to his illness, and quietly moved the scissors.
It feels good. Having you cut my hair is really pleasant.
Really? Well, I was a professional after all. I've always wanted to have my own salon someday.
I see. That sounds like a wonderful future. When you start your own salon, I'll be your first customer.
Jonathan passed away the year he handed me those sunflower seeds. His final days were very frail, like a withered sunflower, and it was heartbreaking to watch. Seeing someone who was so bright and energetic in their youth gradually weakening is truly painful. I might have viewed Jonathan's life and the short-lived sunflowers from the same perspective. So, it might be a bit of an exaggeration, but I decided to continue planting sunflowers in the garden. Imagining the garden full of sunflowers in the summer, I cherished the sunflower seeds Jonathan had collected. One morning, I received a message on my phone with a ping. The message was from Caroline, Owen's wife. It was a single line, "Please be ready at 1 p.m. today." I replied, "Understood." Every few days, I received messages from Caroline asking me to clean the house. Since Jonathan passed away, Caroline's attitude seems to have changed. At some point, she started asking me to clean the house, and now I clean 3 times a week. Most of the cleaning is in the kitchen, where used dishes and pans are haphazardly thrown into the sink.
Bella, after you finish cleaning, please do the shopping as well. I'll send the shopping list via message on your phone.
Caroline said this while putting on makeup in the living room. Her tone was very businesslike, emotionless, as if she was making a perfectly normal request. It felt like the tone one would use with a paid housekeeper, devoid of any inflection.
Oh, Bella. About the sunflowers in the garden. Could you cut them down as soon as the flowers are done?
Well, you see, it takes a bit of time for the seeds to fall after the flowers are done.
I understand, but wilted sunflowers look kind of creepy. In the evening, they look like aliens standing there.
After harvesting the seeds for the next generation and finishing the garden maintenance, there was nothing planted in the flower bed. Caroline had always said she wanted to cover the garden with concrete to avoid the hassle of weeding and insect damage. Owen tends to listen to whatever Caroline says, so he would likely agree with the idea of getting rid of the garden. I tucked away my feelings of sadness and smiled slightly, thinking it would be hard if Owen and Caroline fought because of me. Caroline's demands became more detailed day by day. I was asked to clean the kitchen, the toilet, the bathroom, and the entrance, and eventually, I was responsible for cleaning the entire house. I started visiting Owen's house so frequently that when Owen gave me a spare key, I felt a bit conflicted. One day, Owen called me.
Sorry, Mom! I think I left some documents I need for work on my desk. Could you use the spare key to get into the house and bring them to my office?
Can't you ask Caroline?
Caroline is at work too. Sorry, please. I'll be waiting at the office.
He hung up the phone abruptly, half forcing the request on me. That day, I was relaxing at home for the first time in a while, but reluctantly got up from my chair when Owen called. Since Owen and Caroline both work, Caroline is usually not at home. When I used the spare key to enter their house, I felt a strange sense of unease. I had felt it from the moment I opened the front door. Although I frequently visit Owen's house to clean, today the atmosphere was different from the moment I stepped inside. After a few seconds, I realized what it was. The temperature. Today, a cold wind was blowing, and it was very cold outside. The house, which should have been empty, was warm, with warm air drifting from the living room to the entrance, and I could faintly hear someone's voice inside. The voice was mixed with the sound of the cold wind, so I tiptoed towards the living room where the voice was coming from. A month later, at the end of the year, while I was cleaning my house, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood Caroline. She was wearing a light pink sweater and a black tight skirt, clearly not dressed for housework, and she smiled at me.
Good morning. How are your plans for the New Year holidays?
I'm starting to clean today. I want to relax during the new year.
I see. I've been thinking that I haven't been a good daughter to my parents. So, I'm taking them on a trip starting tomorrow.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
I feel bad for Owen, who has to work during the New Year holidays. But I came here because I have a favor to ask of you.
Oh, what is it?
Cleaning. I'm planning to invite my parents over for New Year's, so please clean more thoroughly than usual.
Caroline said this with a smile and handed me a $5 bill. When I looked at her with a puzzled expression, she gave me a big smile and tilted her head slightly.
It's tough to work for free, after all.
Before I could say anything, she closed the door and left. The $5 bill in my hand felt strangely light. I felt something inside me snap, and I muttered to myself, I need to get things in order before the new year. A few days later, during the New Year holidays, there was an unusually heavy snowfall. Although the TV had reported a mild winter, the end of the year was as freezing as usual, and New Year's Day was clear and sunny. Despite the warm sunshine, a lot of snow still lined the edges of the roads. I sat in the passenger seat of Owen's car, glaring at the wet, thawing road as he drove. Suddenly, Owen's phone rang from his pocket. He conveniently turned left into a convenience store parking lot and answered the call. In the small car, the sound of the call echoed, and I immediately knew who it was.
Oh, Owen. Long time no see. How have you been?
Yeah, Caroline, are you enjoying the trip?
Well, listen to this. The hotel staff here.
Caroline was happily talking about her experiences during the trip, while Owen listened with a vacant expression. Even so, his occasional responses of yeah and I see were in his usual tone, so it was clear that Caroline couldn't possibly understand Owen's current gloomy feelings.
Thanks for letting me go on this trip. When I get back, I'll cook all your favorite dishes and fill you up.
Hey, Caroline.
Oh, sorry. I have something to do before I come back, so I have to go now.
Just as Owen was about to start talking, Caroline abruptly ended the call. Owen stared silently at his phone for a while, then started the car again, seemingly resigned. A few minutes later, my phone in my bag started vibrating. I took it out and saw that the caller ID displayed Caroline. I glanced at Owen, but he was focused on driving carefully on the icy road. Hello?
Hi, I'll be back home tomorrow. The cleaning is done, right?
Happy New Year, Caroline.
Oh, I don't need those greetings. My parents are coming back with me, so I won't forgive you if there's even a speck of dust left.
Caroline.
And since my parents might feel uncomfortable, could you go out somewhere?
That house is no longer there. Over the phone, I could sense Caroline's hesitation at my words. After a few seconds, she started yelling.
What do you mean by that?
I placed my phone on the car's dashboard, switched it to speaker mode, and began explaining so that Owen, who was driving, could also hear. I explained that the house was originally built by my parents, and therefore, I owned the deed. While Caroline was enjoying her trip, I had completed the sale of the house through a real estate company, so they could no longer live there. When I mentioned that we were heading to our new home, Caroline's voice erupted in fury.
How dare you, a penniless widow, do something to make me, your only son's wife, hate you? Don't think you'll get away with this in your old age.
I'm sorry for selling the house without informing you.
Owen always puts me first. If I tell him never to see you again, you'll never see him again. Are you prepared to cut ties with your precious son?
She continued speaking without giving me a chance to respond, her tone growing increasingly harsh. The car, moving slowly and carefully on the snowy road, stopped at a red light. Owen stared at the phone on the dashboard with a somewhat sad expression.
Hey! Don't just stay silent, say something. And cancel the sale of the house immediately. With your disgusting hair color, do you think a widow can bloom like a flower? It's disgusting.
I silently listened to her voice, lightly stroking my hair. She continued to hurl insults at my appearance for a while. Caroline's words were filled with clear malice. I genuinely wondered, why? Why does she hate me so much? No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't understand Caroline's feelings at all. Owen, sitting next to me, let out a big sigh and brought his face closer to the phone.
Caroline, can you hear me? It's Owen.
What? Owen!
Caroline's tone suddenly became sweet, completely different from the harsh voice she used with me.
Yeah, sorry. I heard everything you just said.
Wait, were you near Bella? I mean, I was upset and said some terrible things.
I'm cutting ties. Not with Mom, but with you.
What?
I know everything about how you've treated Mom and betrayed me. There's no need to pretend anymore.
When the light turned green, Owen gently pressed the accelerator and the car started moving cautiously again. The silver landscape of the countryside flowed past the car window. I was mesmerized by the unusual beauty that I would normally pass by without noticing if it weren't for the snow. Owen, who was driving, quietly parked the car on the shoulder. The phone call, which had been silent for a while, was still ongoing, and I wondered what kind of expression Caroline had on her face as she waited for Owen's next words. When Owen mentioned betrayal, Caroline, who likely knew what he was referring to, hesitated to say anything, fearing she would dig herself into a deeper hole. Eventually, in the car that was parked with the engine running, Owen began to speak quietly.
Mom told me a lot. It was unbelievable, but things I couldn't help but believe.
It was the day I used the spare key to enter the house to check on something Owen had forgotten. The sense of unease I felt when I stepped into the house was due to the temperature. Despite the cold outside, the house was warm. Caroline, who was supposed to be at work, was inside, speaking in a sweet voice on the phone with someone. It was like a scene from a drama, and I was shocked to witness it. Caroline was sitting on the sofa, twirling her hair around her finger, and smiling seductively as she spoke on the phone. She said things like, "I can't wait to see you," and "I love you." Eventually, I heard her complain that she had married Owen for his money, but it wasn't as much as she had hoped. I began to suspect Caroline of having an affair. I quickly contacted a detective agency and requested an investigation. The detectives soon submitted a report, and the contents were as expected. It was revealed that Caroline was having an affair with a younger man. Despite claiming to work every day, she only worked about 3 days a week. The other 2 days, she pretended to be at work but was actually visiting her lover's place, and there were photos as evidence. I decided to tell Owen everything, holding the envelope containing the investigation report from the detective. I could tolerate her insults towards me, but I saw no reason to protect Caroline if she didn't care about Owen. When I told Owen about the detective's investigation, he initially seemed surprised, but he eventually accepted the truth quietly, realizing that there had been many small signs of something wrong in their daily life. Caroline had often claimed to be working late, but now everything seemed suspicious. Owen sadly muttered that Caroline looked very beautiful and happy in the photos with the young man. Caroline said nothing over the phone. Before I knew it, the clear sky had become covered with white clouds, and it started to snow. The powdery snow stuck to the car's windshield and quickly melted away.
This must be a joke. It feels like a bad dream. Owen is kind. You'll laugh and forgive everything, right?
I saw the photos of you with your lover. Caroline, you looked really beautiful.
No. I can look even more beautiful when I'm with you, Owen. Let's go on a trip together next time. The place I went to this time was really nice. I want to go there with you.
You know, Caroline, I really love you. Even though you cheated on me, there's a part of me that wants to forgive you.
I understand. You always said I was the most important to you. I want to relax in that warm house again. Cancel the house sale. Let's take it easy together again.
Yeah, but the reason I treated you so well was because my mom taught me to. She told me to prioritize you over her once we got married.
Owen.
Not only did you betray me, but you also hurt my precious mother. I have no lingering feelings for you.
While Caroline was away on a long trip, Owen and I moved out and are now on our way to our new home. Owen calmly informed Caroline that we had sent documents and photos proving her infidelity to her parents, and that all future divorce and alimony proceedings would be handled through a lawyer. Caroline was speechless over the phone.
This can't be true. Please, tell me it's not true, Owen.
Seeing Owen's pained expression, I brought the phone closer to my face and whispered, "Caroline, thank you for worrying about my old age, because I'm a widow without much wealth."
Bella, can we talk calmly, not over the phone, but in person?
I didn't inherit much, but I have the assets I received from my parents and the money I saved while working hard to fulfill my dreams. And the bond between Owen and me isn't so easily broken, so don't worry.
Wait, Bella,
At that moment, Owen pressed the button on the phone and ended the call. Owen took a deep breath and lightly gripped the steering wheel. Snow had accumulated on the windshield, turning it completely white. When he activated the wipers, the view cleared up instantly, but the falling snowflakes continued to turn the entire landscape white. "Are you scared to drive? Are you okay?"
I'm scared. But I'll be fine.
Owen gripped the steering wheel tightly and carefully started the car. The car carrying us slowly moved forward. Later, Caroline's parents contacted me. They began by saying that they were shocked to hear about the divorce from Owen. It turned out that Caroline had gone on the trip not with her parents, but with her lover. I was so surprised by this bold behavior that I couldn't even get angry. Caroline's parents deeply apologized to Owen and me and paid the alimony after the divorce was finalized. I didn't care what happened to Caroline and her lover, but one day, Owen casually mentioned over a drink that they had broken up. Currently, Owen and I are living in a rental apartment. With the new life after the move and the finalized divorce, so many things have happened that the season has already changed to summer. As I looked at some property flyers, I pondered while rubbing my lips with my fingers.
Have you found any good properties?
Owen asked me while looking at the scenery from the balcony. He said that since he had never lived in an apartment before, the view of our town from a high place felt very fresh. When I looked at Owen's back, I could see a large cumulonimbus cloud in the distant sky. It seemed that the real summer was about to begin. The house we lived in was built in a prime location, so the selling price was very high. I decided to use part of that large sum of money to build my dream beauty salon and home, and I was diligently searching for a property. Owen said without turning around.
Looking back now, I realized that Caroline married me because she was after the property, knowing we lived in that big house.
He continued.
But you know, Caroline told me she wanted to take good care of my parents. That was the deciding factor for me.
I put away the property flyers and stood next to Owen. In the corner of the small balcony of the apartment, there was a small planter with sunflowers blooming. The promise my late husband entrusted to me still warmly watches over me. I'm glad you feel that way, Owen, but I hope you find someone who will cherish you, not just me, I said. Owen didn't reply. He just silently stared at the clouds.
What kind of beauty salon do you want to have?
He asked. Oh, you're interested? I was delighted and began to explain to Owen. First, I don't want a flashy salon, but a bright place where anyone can feel free to come. I plan to make the building barrier-free, utilizing my experience as a visiting hairdresser for nursing homes. And just like the house we lived in, I want to create a large garden on the north side of the house and plant sunflowers. I smiled. Owen laughed a little and said,
Why would you plant sunflowers on the north side where it's shady?
I placed my elbows on the balcony railing and closed my eyes. I remembered the smile of my late husband, Jonathan. I wasn't as fond of flowers as Jonathan was. It was always Jonathan's job to take care of the flower beds, and in the middle of summer, I would always notice many sunflowers facing our window. One day, when I casually said, "They're beautiful," Jonathan proudly told me,
I love sunflowers. They make me feel bright, and they're big. Cool, right?
He said. Oh, really? I replied.
And our garden is on the north side, which is perfect.
He added. Why? Isn't it hard for flowers to grow in the shade? I asked. Jonathan grinned and wagged his finger in front of his face.
Didn't you learn in school that sunflowers face the sun? The sunflowers in the north garden always face the house windows.
He explained. I glanced at the sunflowers in the planter and quietly closed my eyes. The expression of Jonathan that appeared behind my eyelids was the same carefree smile as always. It was as bright as the sunflower flowers. I am always encouraged by that brightness.
How did you like this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.